Shota Imanaga returns and the Chicago Cubs win in dramatic fashion. And is Matthew Boyd being overlooked this season? Also, we have three Cubs All-Star finalists. And then, of course, we got more trade talk to talk about too. But first, y'all already know we got to hit you with that intro. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central. This is your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. If you're new to the channel, hey, what's up? My name is Mike Jones. If you are a return subscriber, follower, listener, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for making Central a part of your daily schedule as far as listening to Chicago Cubs content. I try to bring the very best Cubs content I can possibly to this channel every single day, and I appreciate you for being a part of that. You are actually the biggest part of that. If you are not a subscriber, if this is your first time watching, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that like button and also share this podcast with somebody else. Let them know, like, hey, man, Chicago Cubs Central is the place to be for Chicago Cubs content. Now, with that being said, the Chicago Cubs did go ahead and face those St. Louis Cardinals one last time for this week. They'll be back at it next week again for 4th of July weekend. But for now, Chicago Cubs did take care of business, putting those Cardinals down under, beating them 3-0, led by the heroics of a returning Shota Imanaga. Shota looked fantastic in this game. He looked like he had complete control of this game. You know, it almost looked like Shota Imanaga never left. And it looks like he never spent any time on the IL. Never looks like, he missed a beat. Like he looked like he was in complete control of this game, knew what he was doing from the jump, and he looked comfortable out there. And I think that's a lot of what we wanted to see from Shota. Shota did go 5 scoreless innings, only allowed 1 hit over those 5 innings. Outside of that, everything else was pretty much in the air. He did also get some strikeouts as well. But more than anything, he kept those Cardinals that seemed to be a part of the home run barrage the first 2 games, really kept them at bay. And of course, you guys know, whenever the Chicago Cubs win a game, you know what we have to do. It's the same every single time. That's right, y'all. On this channel, we fly the W every single time the Chicago Cubs win a game. That's right. This is win number 48, y'all. We have flown the W 48 times this season. The Chicago Cubs looking to now head, or I'm pretty sure they probably already by this time have arrived in Houston, Texas, to face off against the Houston Astros 3 times over the weekend. We will see them Friday night, we will see them Saturday, and we will see them Sunday. That's right. You'll see those Houston Astros to wind down the month of June. We got Cade Horton pitching on Friday night, and that game starts at 7:10, and it will be Cade Horton going up against a Brandon Walter. Cade Horton, who is 3-1 with a 3.73 ERA, going up against Brad Walter, who is 0 wins, 1 loss, 3.80 ERA. Like I said, and it's just another opportunity for Cade Horton to solidify himself as a piece that belongs in this starting pitching rotation. He does not need to go back down to AAA, and he looks to show you why over the next couple of days. So Chicago Cubs will go up against those Astros. That game is the Friday game. Then, of course, the Saturday matchup is Colin Ray going up against Ryan Gusto. Ryan Gusto, who is 5-3 with a 4.62 ERA, and then Colin Ray, who is 4-3 with a 4.42 ERA. Both of these guys looking like they have something to prove out there. And then, of course, your Sunday 110 matchup, Jamison Tyone will be back on the bump, going up against Framber Valdez. Framber is the best pitcher on the Astros right now. He also is 8-4 with a 2.88 ERA. He is literally leading this team. He has pitched 103 innings already. Jameson Taillon not far behind him. He is 7-5 with a 4.47 ERA, 90 innings pitched so far this season. So, and that'll round out your month of June. The Chicago Cubs literally looking to make some waves. They have Monday off, and then Tuesday they will start a series with the Cleveland Guardians. They'll go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday against the Guardians, and then those Cardinals come into Wrigley for 3 games to wind up that week. So yeah, man, like I said, we're headed into July, and in the month of July, so much happens in the month of July, right? So much is going down, so much talk about the trades. We're looking forward to the All-Star break. Well, the Chicago Cubs, actually, it was noted that they have 3 finalists for the for the starting lineup for the All-Star game. That's right. You have Kyle Tucker, Pete Crow Armstrong, and you have Carson Kelly, all looking to be starters in this year's All-Star game. These guys have a very good shot of at least making the team. And congratulations to all of them. You look at the stats from PCA, you look at the stats from Kyle Tucker, and you look at the stats really from Carson Kelly. I know he's kind of been on a down slump, but he's actually starting to turn things around and hit the ball more now. He's not hitting home run balls, but he is still getting the doubles and the singles, and those are just as good as anything. And like I said, his ERA, I'm sorry, not his ERA, his batting average is beginning to jump back up as well. So Carson Kelly is finding success again at the plate. We already know what he can do behind the dish as a catcher. You really don't want to run on Carson Kelly. He has thrown guys out all season long, and he's found success framing pitches for his pitchers, and a lot of them do like pitching to him. So Carson Kelly has been very good for the Chicago Cubs. We do still miss Miguel Amaya, but like I said, Reese McGuire is also very, very good at what he does. He's been mashing the ball. He's hit 5 home runs since his call up to the main roster, since Miguel Amaya went down. And again, we cannot say enough glowingly about what Reese McGuire has been able to offer this Chicago Cubs team. But once again, like I said, we're looking at the All-Star break. And one big thing that's coming from this is, and I've been thinking about this, is Matthew Boyd. And I didn't spin. I feel like I did Matthew Boyd an injustice. Matthew Boyd pitched for the Chicago Cubs on Thursday, and we did not. I don't feel like I spent enough time on this channel glowingly speaking of Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd is 7-3, tied for 13th best record for a pitcher in the National League. His ERA is 2.65. Once again, tied for 13th best ERA in the National League. He has 82 strikeouts. He has a WHIP of 1.10. Matthew Boyd, literally, his ERA within his last 7 days is 1.64. And again, he has found himself against the National League. Game started 14. And he has found himself pitching 50 innings in away games. And again, he has found himself having success all season long. Now, again, the Chicago Cubs have not necessarily won every single game that Matthew Boyd has pitched in. They lost against the Washington Nationals 2-0. They would lose in extra innings to the Phillies 4-3. They did beat Pittsburgh 2-1, and then they lost to Seattle 9-4. That was probably his worst outing. And then, of course, they did beat St. Louis 8-0. But Matthew Boyd has been a steady hand in the Chicago Cubs starting rotation. He when we thought it was Jameson Taillon and we're praising Jameson Taillon, Matthew Boyd, actually, quiet as kept, has been able to give you 5 to 6 innings per game of quality pitching. When Colin Ray failed us, when Ben Brown, started having his issues, you began to look and you began to see that Matthew Boyd is legit as one of those pitchers that you can count on for this team. And with that being said, the question of the day to all of you, do you think Matthew Boyd should be an all-star? Do you think Matthew Boyd should be considered for an all-star with the way that his record is set up, with the way that the success that he's had on the bump, and with the way that he's been leading and guiding this pitching rotation? Do you think that Matthew Boyd should be considered for an all-star spot to be able to pitch in the all-star game? Is he an all-star this season? I just read off to you his stats. I just read off to you his numbers. Tell me, comment below. Do you guys think that Matthew Boyd is being overlooked? I mean, like I said, you do have great pitchers even on this team, such as Shota Imanaga, who receive a lot of the praise, but a lot of times the media doesn't cover just how good Matthew Boyd has been and just how sneaky of a good pickup that was for Jed Hoyer, getting Matthew Boyd almost at a steal for what he has been able to give you this season. Again, quality start after quality start. His availability has been there. The game I went to in Chicago last month, Matthew Boyd pitched against the White Sox, and it was great. He was phenomenal. He was in charge majority of the game. He knew what he was doing. He had a plan of attack, and he did what he had to do. So, again, I think that the Chicago Cubs and Matthew Boyd really have a lot to say right now, and he's just been very, very good, very, very steady for the Chicago Cubs. So, with that being said, not only are we looking at all-stars, but last but not least, our last topic for this episode, we are looking at Chicago Cubs needing starting pitching, right? The Chicago Cubs wanting starting pitching. And I talked to you guys about Sandy Alcantara. I talked to you guys about Mitch Keller. I do want to talk to you guys today about the potential of the Chicago Cubs maybe getting another Miami Marlin, maybe that one being Edward Cabrera. Edward Cabrera on the regular season has pitched 64 innings. He has allowed 59 hits. He has allowed 29 runs. He has an ERA of 3.78. He has been pretty good as pitchers go, as far as pitchers go for the Miami Marlins. Now, again, like I said, they don't always get the same run support that he would get here in Chicago. So I do think that his numbers might actually look a little bit better. And we know for sure our defense is better than the Marlins defense. Do you guys think that the Chicago Cubs, if they want too much for Sandy Alcantara, do you think the Chicago Cubs ought to pivot and maybe try to get a trade for Edward Cabrera? Do you think that he could be a missing piece to the Chicago Cubs rotation? So I think absolutely this is a guy that you could peg as somebody that could potentially come and via trade to the Chicago Cubs and be a piece. Remember, Bruce Levine said within the next 7 to 10 days, Chicago Cubs will probably make a trade for a starting pitcher. Another pitcher that the Chicago Cubs might be looking at is a right-hander by the name of Luis Severino, who pitches for the Athletics. I mean, they're not even the Oakland Athletics anymore. I always want to call them Oakland Athletics. They're not even the Oakland Athletics anymore. But anyways, Luis Severino is 2-8 on the season, 4.83, 68 strikeouts with a 1.35 whip. Now, again, his stats do not jump out at you like, oh my goodness, this guy is somebody we absolutely have to have. In fact, in his last game, he only got 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, but he allowed 7 hits, 7 earned runs, and 5 innings pitched for the Oakland Athletics. But again, I think a change of scenery and being on a different team with different expectations might be something that Luis Severino might actually benefit from. I think he could come here to Chicago. I do think that he could find success here because this team is different. And I do think Tommy Hotovy has shown, even with Mitch Keller, you look at a pitcher like Mitch Keller, okay, the Chicago Cubs want to get an ace, but we also probably do need another pitcher also. So again, like I said, another starting pitcher also. And I just happen to think that the Chicago Cubs should make a trade for that and do what they need to do. So with that being said, do you guys think that we ought to take a look at Edward Cabrera? What would you offer for Edward Cabrera? And also, what would you offer for Luis Severino? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts, guys, on that. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in and watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central. Again, this is your #1 spot for all things Chicago Cubs and the home of the voice of the Chicago Cub fan. I appreciate you all so much. Until tomorrow's game after tomorrow's game against the Houston Astros, go Cubs, go.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.